Hi and welcome to this lesson on social class and crime. So this lesson we're going to be looking at the patterns of offending for different social classes. We're going to look at the factors affecting criminal behaviour in different social classes. And we're going to look at what different theories would say about this. So as a starter, if you are doing this from home, the attached sheet, so class and crime statistics, is in the shared area. If you are doing this in isolation, I will also attach it to Go for Schools for you as well. So what are the statistics showing about offending, and how could you link these to social class? Do you think, affect particular social classes more than others? So, some key statistics then you would need to be aware about, and as with all previous lessons, feel free to go through this at your own pace. So, within the crime statistics, they don't specifically refer to this class, this social class does this crime, this one does this. But there is statistics about who is more likely to be convicted. So, Marxists suggest that a considerable amount of white-collar crime, corporate crime, is not being detected and therefore doesn't really make it into the crime statistics. So, the way I would do this and what I would suggest doing is giving yourself a double-page spread. A lot of these explanations we have done already, but we're going to link it now to social class. So, for each one, there's going to be a slide of information. I would suggest jotting down, say, 2 or 3 key ideas that you think you would be able to write about. So, the first one we're going to look at is inaccurate statistics. So, firstly, as we've done already when we did the lesson on data and crime, the statistics about crime are not accurate. And there is also a link between crime, unemployment, and perhaps individuals in low-paid jobs, which I'm sure based on everything we've done, you could probably link to what kind of crimes and why that might be. However, it could be that people are committing crimes that are more identifiable. So, for instance, perhaps the reason why working class people appear more frequently in statistics is because they're committing crimes that are more targeted by the police than perhaps other crimes. So this might be why they are targeted more. So bear in mind when we're looking at statistics, they might not be accurate. Second one, socialisation. So, if we think about everything that we've done about socialisation, what we did about functionalism and inadequate socialisation, children do develop the norms and values generally of their parents. So, there have been studies that found a correlation between criminal children and poor parental kind of upbringing. So, for instance, if parents are quite harsh with punishments or inconsistent, this could lead to more of a chance that they may commit criminal offences in the future. And people like Charles Murray, who is a new right sociologist. Now, we've not done a huge amount on new right, so I wouldn't get too stressed out, but he is a good one that you can put in for this one. So he basically says that if you are from one-parent families, single-parent families, you're not being socialised correctly and that you're more likely to be criminal. So the new right are very critical of single-parent families. So that is a point you could use. However, there's not really that much evidence you can use to back it up. Again, if we're looking at functionalist explanations for social class, Merton you could bring in here. Again, think about everything that we've done that you can link. So because obviously there's going to be links between working class, crime, they might not have the means to be able to achieve. So you could also link this then to anomie as well. So when there's not that kind of appropriate route to achieve their goals, they might then turn towards alternative means. You could link it to that people out from working class backgrounds are maybe more likely to experience blocked opportunities perhaps than people from a middle class or upper class background. So again, we could link this then to Cohen, who talked about status frustration. Particularly kind of he looked at delinquent boys and subcultures, so they were normally working class boys. And Miller, who we've not done yet, but also looked at things like subcultural values and said that they are more likely to have focal concerns. We will do more on this kind of later, so don't worry about it too much. So, Marxists. What would we say about Marxists and social class? Probably quite a lot. So, Marxists believe that the working class are overrepresented. So think about all the reasons that we've looked at so far. They would say it's because white-collar crime is often invisible, and that's the type of crime that middle-class people and upper-class are more likely to commit. They would argue that the police, courts focus their attention on kind of working class crime, while things like middle class, upper class really is going unpunished or getting a lot softer treatment. You know, we talked about, if you can remember, the statistic where it was like there was so many people, like huge amounts of people who were in charge of looking and investigating benefit fraud, but quite a small minority in comparison looking at corporation fraud and things like that. So that would be a good example to kind of use. And when the working class do commit crime, you know, Marxists are looking at, well, maybe it's due to things like poverty, material deprivation and unemployment. So again, as we go through social class, age, gender and ethnicity, think about all the explanations that we've already looked at and how they can apply to this specific area. Interactionists would say that poorer groups of people in society are more likely to be labelled as victims, they're more likely to be labelled as the criminals, and obviously then that's going to lead to them being targeted more by the police. Again, links into the type of crimes that they're more likely to commit, so things like vandalism, theft, you know, are more visible crimes, therefore much more likely to be labelled in that way. And once identified and labelled as criminal, people are more likely to be seen then as criminals. Also, if they look and act in a stereotypically kind of criminal way, they're therefore more likely to be labelled and therefore maybe might be misrepresented in court, being judged inappropriately in court, and then that could be a miscarriage of justice. So, just to make sure that we've got all our kind of key definitions down, so white collar crime is committed predominantly by middle and upper class individuals, and it's normally to do with work. Now there's kind of 4 different kind of categories that you can use. So here we go. So you've got occupational crime. It's normally crime carried out by individuals in their work. So for instance, fraud through work or theft from work. Professional crime is people whose careers are kind of a criminal thing. So for instance, being a drug runner, being involved in the mafia would kind of come into that category. Corporate crime is basically carried out by people like directors, and they're basically cutting corners in order to kind of increase profits, and we'll look at some examples of that in a minute. And computer crime is kind of what it says it is. It's crime committed using a computer, e.g. illegal transfer of funds. I'm sure some of you have had those kind of phishing scams where they send you an email that looks legitimate, but you know is not really. So the cost of fraud is estimated to be about 193 billion a year, whilst actually burglary is only 2.2. So you could argue that a lot more money and time and effort and resources is put into investigating burglary perhaps than fraud, because it's that much more of a visible crime, therefore more likely to pick on kind of working class people who may be more likely to commit burglary. I have put a link to a video that does talk about some of these on there. So again, the video is on the shared area if you would like to have a watch of the video. So identifying the type of crime. So there are 4 different images. Now if you've watched the video, you should be able to work out which one is which. So just to kind of finish this off, I've put 2 practice questions on here for you to have a go at. So the first one, again, is a data one. So you've got to look at the graph and kind of explain what you can see. So basically, describe the type of crime survey in item A. So what is it? And then identify the data. Identify the trend shown by the data and explain one factor that may account for this trend. So there's multiple parts to this question. So I'm going to give you, I would suggest spending no more than 5 minutes on it, 4 ideally, but have a go, pause the video and see if you can work out what would you write before I go through the answer. So, describe the type of crime survey. So it's the crime survey of England and Wales. So what kind of survey is it? Then identify the trend and then give me a reason why that is happening. So I've given you sentence starters if you want to use those. So this data is blank, the trend shown in this data is blank, and explanation for this would be. So this is kind of what I'm looking for. So the first one is, it is a victim survey of UK households. You could also put it is a survey asking people about their experiences of crime. Then the trend is, obviously it's a downward trend. You could have it's reducing, it's falling, those would all be acceptable. And then your explanations you could have, for instance, maybe we've got fewer cash-based transactions, a lot more difficult to mug people and kind of steal from them in that way. Changes in technology, we're a lot easier to track people down. Changes in procedures about gathering data. Obviously, there are huge amounts of other reasons, and we'll talk about some of these in the lessons. But yeah, there is potentially a huge amount of answers for that. So this is what I've done as my kind of model, I'm doing air quotes there, answer. So item 8 is a victim survey, because it's the crime survey of England and Wales. The trend is crime is reducing over time. One factor that could explain this is changing technology, which deters certain types of commonly committed crimes. For example, improves car security and the increased use of burglar alarms. So if we break this down, you can see where all 4 marks have been awarded in that answer. So what I would also like you to have a go at is how would you apply what we've done this lesson to a 12-mark question. So discuss how far sociologists agree that crimes are more likely to be committed by members of the working class rather than members of the middle class. So you would want a point to explain why working class may commit more crime. So give some reasons. Again, think about your theories. Can you link in theories? And then can you give me a point to say maybe why middle class might commit more crime or why they're not committing more crime? So to kind of have an ideal answer, you're looking for a point. So you might start off with, this theory suggests that working class people commit more crime because of blank. You then explain it and give some examples. Make sure you link this back to the question. So how does that answer the question? Why is it showing that crimes are more likely to be committed by them? And then can you give some kind of evaluation or criticism of your point? Now this is what we're aiming for kind of like an 8-9 grade answer. So ideally 1 point for, 1 point against, and then you would need to have a conclusion. Bear in mind, I've not put the conclusion here because we're just focusing on getting the points done. So this is what I've come up with as a kind of ideal answer. Again, ideal in the air quotes is, I'm sure some of you could write better, but for the purposes of this. So I've split it down so you can see the 4 sections. So functionalists, so I've got my theory there, would suggest one reason why working class people commit more crime is that they learn deviant norms and values through their primary socialisation. If they are socialised inadequately, they may believe crime is acceptable. And then I've backed it up with an example. So for example, they may grow up believing that drug taking is normal behaviour. You could link it to if they see the parents committing crime, then they would see that as normal. If they've got criminal role models. So lots of examples that you could put in there. This shows why working class individuals commit more crime, and I've also put in a sociologist there. So this is supported by Charles Murray as well, because he talks about maybe it could be due to them not having adequate socialisation. You could link it into maybe lone parent families as well. However, some criticism, this has very little evidence to support, so you've tried to criticise it. So obviously that's only one side of the argument, and I would be looking for 2 and a conclusion. So I would like you to have a go at that as a practice question as well. So if you have any questions, please get in touch. And yeah, thanks very much. Bye.